So, have you ever really thought about what it would take to dedicate your entire life to a single project? I'm not talking about just a few years. I mean a full-on half century, all chasing down a single historical truth. Well, we're about to dive into the story of a book that is the very definition of that kind of incredible, monumental dedication. And here it is. This is what ThoughtQuest produced. The book is called Al-Ghadir, and when I say book, I mean an 11-volume, 6,500-page encyclopedia. It's just a colossal work of scholarship, right? But the story behind how it was made, well, that's just as massive as the page count. Which, of course, brings us to the big question, right? What on earth could drive one person to pour their entire adult life into a single book? It wasn't for fame, it wasn't for money. Turns out, it all started as a response. To really get it, we have to go back to the beginning. This whole mission, it didn't start with some grand plan. It actually started as a passionate defense of a community's heritage. Okay, so the spark that lit this fire was a book that came out of Egypt. And this book, it was full of what this scholar saw as just total misrepresentations of Shia Islamic beliefs. It was pretty harsh, claiming they'd contributed nothing to Islam, along with a bunch of other serious accusations. And for one particular scholar, this was something he just could not let stand. And that scholar was Sheikh Abdul Hussain al-Amini. He decided that the only way to counter this kind of misinformation wasn't with more arguments, but with overwhelming, undeniable, and just meticulously documented evidence. He wasn't just going to write a rebuttal. He was going to build a library. And just like that, one of the most ambitious scholarly journeys of the 20th century began. A journey that would literally span continents and consume an entire lifetime. So let's just try to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this quest. First off, the time. 50 years. A lifetime. And during that time, he reportedly read over 10,000 books. I mean, cover to cover. And if that's not enough, he then reviewed and cross-referenced an estimated 100,000 original manuscripts. Seriously, that level of dedication is almost impossible to imagine. And this was not some comfy academic job. We're talking grueling 16-hour days. He traveled the world, hitting up the great libraries in India, Syria, you name it, often in really tough conditions. And remember, this is an era before photocopiers or digital cameras were a thing. He would spend months just painstakingly copying these rare, priceless texts by hand. So, after all that incredible effort, what did he actually build? What did he create? Let's take a look inside the structure of this masterpiece to see how he pulled it all together. The title itself, Al-Ghadir, literally means the spring, or the pool, and it's a reference to a very specific historical event known as Ghadir Qum. Now, this single event is absolutely central to the question of who should have succeeded the Prophet Muhammad, which, is a topic that sits at the very heart of the historical split between Sunni and Shia Islam. This entire encyclopedia is an exhaustive investigation of this one pivotal moment. But it's the method that makes this book so powerful. See, al-Amini didn't just tell a story. He built this unbreakable chain of evidence. First, he identified 110 of the Prophet's own companions who talked about the event. Then he moved to the next generation, the successors. And finally, he cataloged every single major scholar who passed down this tradition, century by century, all the way to the modern era. It's like historical forensics. And here's the absolute genius of his approach. To build his case, al-Amini almost exclusively used sources that are accepted and revered by Sunni Muslims, the very school of thought he was in dialogue with. He was basically showing that the evidence for his position existed within their own most trusted collections of prophetic traditions and scriptural commentary. So at the end of the day, the power of Al-Ghadir doesn't come from some passionate argument. It comes from its cool, calm, systematic presentation of evidence. As one reviewer put it, al-Amini was a researcher who placed the integrity of scholarship and impartiality way above any emotional stuff. And this scholarly, evidence-first approach had a profound and maybe even unexpected effect. Instead of creating more arguments, it actually opened a door for real dialogue. This right here is probably the most powerful testament to the book's impact. And it's a quote not from a Shia supporter, but from Muhammad Abdul Ghani Hassan, who was a prominent Egyptian Sunni scholar.
He praised the book's incredible research and said he hoped that this clear spring of knowledge could actually help bring clarity and brotherhood between the two communities.
Wow. So after all that, what is the lasting legacy of this 50-year quest? What does it all really amount to today? Well, the tangible result is that masterpiece we saw at the start. 11 volumes that are still one of the most comprehensive references ever put together on the event of Ghadir Qum. For any serious researcher looking into this, it's an absolutely essential resource. But its legacy is so much more than just the information inside. It's a symbol, right? It stands as this powerful testament to how one person's relentless, dedicated scholarship can defend a heritage and, just through the sheer force of evidence, bring clarity to historical truth. Which kind of leaves us with one last thought. You know, in our world of instant information and quick sound bites, the story of Al-Ghadir poses a really powerful question. Can a single book, born from one man's half-century of pure devotion, actually change the conversation for generations? The legacy of Al-Ghadir seems to suggest that, yeah, it absolutely can.